Hare Rama, Shivachayo, Kochayo go, Rachante, Jaya,
Shankar
Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Bhattacharya Shuddha Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Khati Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se ko Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Shri Giri Govardhan ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Navadvip Maya Pudam ki Ganga Maya Muna Maya ki Tulasi Devi Tulasi Maharani ki Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. of space. Ben, can you sit here behind, do the singer pranam?
Namaste Narasihaya. Namaste Narasihaya. Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Jagadish Hare, Ramagara Kamalavare, Naka Madhuta Lingam, Hiranya Kasipu, Dhanu Bringam, Yesavadrita. Hare Rupa, Hare Jagadish Hare. Kesavadrita Narahare Rupa, Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Jagadish Hare. Jaya Jagadish Hare, Kesavadrita Narahare Rupa, Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Nisingha Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Shri Bhagavan ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.
Thank you, Ben, Prabhu. So, welcome again, everyone who is here. Jayanti Bai, welcome. Narada Prabhu, welcome. Royban, welcome. Vijay, welcome. Doesn't matter, it's okay. Hare Krishna. So we have a very special guest tonight. His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu, who has come all the way from Costa Rica. Not exactly. He is at the time, he is in Oxford doing his PhD on whether bhakti is inherent in the soul or it is acquired. He does a lot of research into historical research into our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. So that will be very interesting. I just give a little introduction to you. I hope I got it right. You're doing some research, PhD research, into whether bhakti is inherent, dormant in the Jiva, or whether it is acquired. Is that, I put it correctly?
I'm tracing the history of the topic.
History, yes. Yes, lots of historical research, right? Okay, so here is Sundar Gopal. We want to... Ben, can you take this camera and put it right in front here somewhere? One moment. You might have to move your chair a little bit here. That's the furthest the microphone can reach.
Oh, that's perfect.
Should be okay. Yeah?
Hare Krishna.
It picks up from the side.
Okay.
So, like that.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Oh Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Oh Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Hare Krishna. Then Prabhu, can you center the camera a little bit
Yes,
more?
sure.
You think that chair will be high enough?
I think so, yeah. I think it's good. I think it'll be
Yes,
fine.
Look at the screen,
Huh.
just a little bit.
You'll be good. Sure. Yeah, because it'll heat up a bit if it's on top of the pillow.
Yeah, not too much. In the middle. Yeah, that seems to be quite.
Is that okay?
Yes, I would think so. Is that center? A little bit more to this side.
More back this way.
No.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Jai, Hare Krishna.
Happy with it?
Yes, thank you.
Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. He Shri Guru Jnanadadina Bandho Svananda Datta Karunaika Sindho Vrindavanasi Nahitavatara Prasid Radha Pranaya Prachara Yuvatinam Yatayuni Yunancha Yuvato Yata Mano Bhiramate Tadvan Mano Bhiramatang Tvai Rasang Prashangsantu Kavitvanishta Brahmamritam Veda Shiro Nivishta Vayam tu Gunja Kalita Vatangsam Grihita Vangsham Kamapi Shrayama Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First, I offer my Dandavat Pranam at the lotus feet of my dear spiritual master, Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad, Shishimad Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu Narayana Gosvami Maharaj. Again, I offer my Dandavat Pranam at the lotus feet of Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad, Shishimad A.C. Bhakti-vedanta Swami Prabhupada. In the same way, I offer my Dandavat Pranam to all the Acharyas in our illustrious Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga. I offer my Dandavat Pranam to my dear father, Shriman Gauranga Sundara Prabhu, and to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis here, and beg you for your causeless mercy. I'm very excited always to come to Leicester and meet all of you again, so I can get your blessings. My Dandavat Pranam to those who have tuned in from online. I hope that one of these days I get a chance to meet you all in person also. Hare Krishna. So, I thought I would share with you today some teachings that I'm actually looking at the moment as part of my own reading and study from the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami, as they have been explained by Srila Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion. So, first, I think maybe the way to introduce this topic is to have a look at the way that we the way that we chant the Mahamantra, right, in our practice. So you know, of course, that we have a bead bag. We keep our hands in the bead bag. And there's one finger that sticks out of the bead bag. Which one is it? The index finger. Why is the index finger not in the bag? That's the question. Yes?
Is it because it's classed as a dirty finger?
What, for picking the nose?
In your eyes, all kind of thing.
It's one reason.
It points. It points.
That's right. Yes. Yes, yes. So this finger is considered to be the finger of anger and anger and criticism. So in that sense, it's also a dirty finger. So this particular finger, when we're angry, we point it at someone. We direct. It's the direction of our anger. It's also the direction of any criticism that we level at someone. So our practice of Harinam, our practice of Japa, is we make sure that doesn't form part of our practice. So that's symbolized by having this finger outside of the bag. On the other hand, this small finger, it's called the Kanishta. Kanishta means small. It symbolizes humility. So we keep that within our bead bag. So I wanted to start with this because as jivas in this world, in the state of bondage, we're naturally drawn to looking at the faults of others. So it's something that is almost, it's something that really comes very naturally to us. We tend to be quite lenient on ourselves. We'll overlook our own faults easily. But if someone else has some fault, then we're very quick to notice that, maybe speak about it, try and magnify it in some way. Now, there's one verse in the Bhagavad-gita that explains the way that the topmost yogi perceives the world. So, basically, when our practice develops and matures, one thing that immediately happens is we develop kindness to everyone. And we give up this idea of searching for faults in others. So the Bhagavad-gita says, Atma paumyena sarvatra samam pashyati arjuna sukam va yadivadukam sa yogi paramo mataha. Yogi parama, the supreme yogi, the highest yogi, or yogini. What are the qualities of the highest yogi or yogini? He or she sees the happiness of others to be like their own happiness. Sukha means either happiness or it means good fortune, both. So you see the good fortune of others to be as like one's own. And dukkam va yadi sees the unhappiness or the misfortune of others also as one's own. So usually in the world, we tend to see, and we might recognize this within ourselves, we tend to see the opposite of that. When someone who we think is our competition, they're not doing so well, we're secretly very happy. And if someone else, even if we think, we may even call someone our friend, but if they're doing better than we are, we might feel secretly, some little, niggling unhappiness. So that's the dominant way in which it's a dominant viewpoint that we find in the world. So the supreme yogi or yogini is someone who has reversed that and who genuinely sees the misfortune and unhappiness of others, I won't even say like one's own, but as one's own, directly as one's own. So when you are suffering, that's my suffering. When you have good fortune, I feel that's my good fortune. So what an inversion that you see here. So what is a way of developing that kind of consciousness? So Srila Rupa Gosvami in Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu, in the second part of Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu, he shows us how to develop that kind of consciousness. So first, he turns to the Vishnu Yamala Tantra and explains the 18 faults that we jivas have in the world. So we'll just have a quick look at those, and then there's a little secret for how to overcome looking at the faults of others and how to develop this kind of consciousness of a yogi, of a bhakti yogi or yogini. So, mohastandrama brahmo ruksha rasata kama ulbanaha lolata madamatsarye himsa kheda parishramao asatyam kroda ahangsha ashanka vishvab vibramaha vishamatvam parapeksha dosha ashtadashoditaha. So, this is a list of 18 faults that jivas who are in the state of bondage, they have these in various degrees. The first one is moha. What does moha mean? Moha means delusion. So they're liable to be deluded. The biggest delusion, or the most immediate delusion from which other delusions occur, is the identification that the jiva has with the field of perception. So everything that we can perceive through our senses is part of the field of perception. And we are as the soul, we're separate from the field of perception. When we look for our own identity in the field of perception, that is called moha or bewilderment. So our physical body is part of the field of perception. It's not who we are. To search for ourselves in the field of perception is like if you see a movie and you look for the cameraman in the movie. You can never find the cameraman in the movie, no matter how hard you look. So by looking in the world, the field of perception will never find the Atman, the self. So the next one is Tandra. Tandra means, can mean drowsiness. Sanskrit words have many meanings. It can mean drowsiness. It also means laziness. So we're prone to be quite lazy. Brahma. Brahma means making a mistake. So we have imperfect senses. And we very easily, limited and imperfect senses, we very easily fall into error. Ruksha rasata. Rasa means taste, right? So ruksha rasata means deprived of sweetness or taste. The next one is kama. Kama means desire. So sometimes we translate kama as lust, but we shouldn't think it's simply kind of sexual desire. Any desire in this world that's based on delusion is kama. Lolata, instability of thought. So restlessness, the inability to focus the mind. That's called lolata. Mada. Mada is pride. Matsarya is envy. Himsa is violence. Violence will follow envy and pride as a natural result. Keda parishramao means excessive effort. Excessive effort overexertion without any meaningful results. So we see in this world, we'll spend an entire lifetime building a career or pursuing various types of things that we think will make us happy. And in the end, it's fruitless toil. It's a life of feverish endeavor that doesn't lead to anything substantial. At the time of death, there's nothing we can take with us. Not even the smallest amount in our bank balance. All of the various how to put it, the various signs of status that we may gather, or the various achievements that we may try to accumulate in this world. All of that is meaningless at death. We cannot take any of that with us. Asatyam, falsehood. In other words, a lack of truth or dishonesty. Krodha. What does krodha mean? Anger. Akanksha. Continuous craving. So it signifies unfulfilled desires. Always feeling there's something missing. Like there's some want or some emptiness in us. That feeling is it's not surprising if we have that feeling, because that's the feeling of a jiva in this world who's bound. It's one of the 18 faults of the jiva, that we feel this emptiness. And that then makes us look in the world and try and fill that with something. We want some kind of status or recognition or something to fill that emptiness, and have this sense that we are worth something. Vishva Vibramaha. That means mental agitation. It also means entanglement in worldly affairs. So that comes as a natural result. You see, in this list of qualities of the jiva in this world, they're very much linked one after the other. Often one leads to the next one. Vishamatvam, that means partiality. So in this world, we're very partial to those who feed our illusory ego. So we have a story in the world that we create. I am this person. Much of our story we inherit from others. And we live out this story. And we take the story so seriously that we're prepared to fight for it. We're prepared to even lose our friends in order to protect this story that we have. And this central character in our story is who we think we are. So in Indian thought, in the thinking of the Upanishads and the Puranas and sacred texts of India, they differentiate carefully between the central character in our story in order to let us know that we are not that character. So they call that character Ahankara, the I maker. We have these various identities that we create, and we believe that that's who we are. And we're partial to those who feed that identity and support it. We think they're my friend. And those who threaten this identity and story, we think they're my enemy. So the Bhagavad-gita begins with that, right? That's the consciousness of the blind emperor Dhritarashtra. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kim akurvata sanjaya. So the Bhagavad-gita, why does it begin with that? Because that's the dominant perception, the dominant way of approaching the world. And you see in Dhritarashtra's opening statement, fear, attachment, and illusion. And he's making divisions, my sons and the sons of Pandu. So friends and enemy. He's thinking in those terms. What did they do? He's full of anxiety and fear. He's wondering what has happened. Has his side won? Has my side won, or has their side won? And deep attachment for his side, what represents his side, his sons. Now, if you know the history of the Mahabharata, actually, the Pandavas are his sons. Why? Because the 5 Pandavas, their father died when they were youngsters. So they came to Hastinapur and they lived with Dhritarashtra. They considered Dhritarashtra to be their father. And you know, in Indian culture, cousins are considered brothers. You say cousin, brother. And for like people who don't know, like they don't understand what cousin or brother, which one? Cousins are regarded as brothers in Indian culture. So the Pandavas regarded Dhritarashtra as their father and respected him in that way. And yet there you have Dhritarashtra in the privacy of his in Hastinapur. He's alone. Just a few people are there. Everyone else is at Kurukshetra, and so he can speak his mind freely, and he's thinking in terms of my sons and the sons of Pandu, making these divisions between friend and enemy. So we do this, and that leads to this fault of vishamatva, which is partiality. We're partial to those who we think will help our interests, serve our interests. And that's why the opposite of the supreme yogi or the supreme yogini, the opposite of that is that we feel happy to see the suffering of others. And we feel sadness to see the prosperity of others. It's a disease that the conditioned jiva has, to one extent or another. The next, number 17, is parapeksha, dependence on others. So we're reliant in one way or another on others. We're not self-sufficient. Doshaha ashta dashoditaha. These are the 8 faults enumerated, the 8 flaws enumerated in the Vishnu Yamala Tantra. Okay. So these are the flaws that we look for in others. Naturally, not in ourselves. We'll scan the environment, and see, oh, look, this person, I wonder, well, look at that, looks like they're an angry person, and we make our judgments like that. So, now, here's the secret. Shall we look at the secret of how to overcome that and become a topmost yogi or yogini? The secret is to look at these faults in Krishna. So Srila Rupa Goswami begins by saying that Krishna has no faults, right? Krishna is totally without any blemish. But these 18 attributes are to be found in Krishna, and they represent his greatest virtues. Not all 18. There are 2 that are not found. And we'll have a look at what those are. So I'm looking here at Srila Rupa Goswami's explanation and Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary to Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu. His commentary is called Durgama-sangamani. So it's the commentary that resolves any difficulties. So any kind of confusion someone may have about Srila Rupa Goswami's teachings, Srila Jiva Goswami in that commentary is intended to resolve any doubts or difficulties. So Srila Jiva Goswami says, okay, what's the first, anyone remember the first flaw of the jiva? The first flaw.
Is it because he's in illusion?
Yes, moha, bewilderment. So we can, in our meditation, when we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we can remember Krishna's quality of falling into bewilderment. So here's an example. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. Tavangri yugmam anukrishya sarishri panto ghosha praghosha ruchiram vrajakardameshu tannadarishta manasavanusritya lokam mugdha prabhitavad upeya turanti matroho. When Krishna and Balaram were crawling around in muddy places in Braja, and they were places that there's cow dung and cow urine, and they're crawling there, they'll hear the sound of ankle bells, and they'll become Krishna and Baladev become, as they're crawling around, they're enchanted by the sound of ankle bells, and they begin following the sound of those ankle bells. And then they look up and they realize, oh, that's not my mother, Yashoda, Maya. And they become scared, and they quickly go back to their parents. So you see here Krishna, although Krishna knows everything, although Krishna is present, not just in our own heart, but in every single atom, although nothing exists beyond Krishna, still Krishna becomes bewildered and thinks that the ankle bell sound that he hears is his mother's, and follows it until he realizes that he's lost and comes running back to his parents. Srila Jiva Goswami provides another example. You know, of course, how let's have a look. How Krishna, when he goes out into the forest of Vrindavan, and suddenly, with all of his friends, surrounded by his friends, and they're all having lunch on the bank of the Yamuna river. And then the head of our sampradaya, Brahmaji, steals away the cows. So Krishna then goes searching for the cows. And when Krishna's going searching for the cows, then Brahma takes the opportunity to steal away the cowherd boys. And Krishna comes back, and he's bewildered. All of his cows and for some moments he's doesn't know what has happened. So there are many beautiful leelas of Krishna in Braj where he becomes bewildered like this. So we can remember that and cherish that in our heart. And cherishing that in our heart removes the bewilderment that we have in this flow of bewilderment that we have becomes eradicated in the heart, as well as the tendency to look for that as a flaw in others by thinking about Krishna, various pastimes of Krishna where he is bewildered. So Srila Jiva Goswami says these are actually Krishna's highest attributes, and they differentiate him from Vishnu or Narayana. Because Vishnu and Narayana are never bewildered, right? But Krishna, by being bewildered, as a result of that, it emphasizes his supreme quality of sweetness, his supreme quality of madhurya. Like the great song composed by Vallabhacharya, Adharam madhuram vadanam madhuram nayanam madhuram hasitam madhuram. Krishna's face is full of sweetness. Krishna's eyes are full of sweetness. Krishna's smile is full of sweetness. So Krishna is that person who enchants the hearts of everyone. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura says something very beautiful. The word Krishna means what? All attractive, right? So Krish, the verbal root krish, means to attract or to draw. Karshana means a magnet, actually. So it's a related word, it's a magnet. So Krishna draws the hearts of all living beings. So someone may say, well, we see that the jivas in this world, they're not attracted to Krishna, right? Maybe you've wondered. Not everyone seems attracted to Krishna. Does that mean that Krishna's name is false? So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura explains something very wonderful. He says, Thakur Bhaktivinoda says, that if you think of a magnet and you think of specks of iron, iron is naturally drawn to the magnet, right? There's something in the magnet that draws the iron, But there must also be something in the iron that's attracted to the magnet. Right? However, if iron filings are not in proximity to the magnet, or the iron filings are rusty, then they won't be attracted. I don't know if you've ever tried taking some iron that's rusty. It won't attract. It won't be attracted. So in the same way, all jivas have something in them that's naturally drawn to Krishna. But when we're covered with the iron of avidya or nescience, ignorance, we're covered by or anarthas, or that which is unwanted, that comes about from avidya, from nescience, from ignorance, then there's like a covering of rust. That covering of rust is removed by the practices of bhakti. So by Harinam, by listening to Krishna's pastimes and qualities, by reflecting on Krishna's beautiful qualities, by kirtan, the iron's removed, and the jiva is naturally attracted to the magnet that is Sri Krishna. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, he uses that analogy to explain that actually bhakti is something innate in the self. It's a dispositional property of the self, because just like iron attracted to a magnet, the magnet has the power of attraction, but the iron also must have something in it innately by its construction that's drawn to Krishna. So Krishna attracts all jivas, but some jivas have this covering of rust to various levels. And so they're not, for the moment, they're not drawn to Krishna, but their very makeup or their construction is to be attracted to Krishna. So we move on to the next quality, attachment. Rus. Okay, the two qualities. Do you want to take a guess? I don't know if you remember, but you want to take a guess which of those 18 are not found in Krishna. We should remove those to begin with. I don't know if you remember the various.
What's envy? What is it?
That's not the one that's not there. That's not the one that's not there. The two that are not in Krishna are ruksha rasata, which means rukshita means dry, and rasa, so it's dry or empty of rasa. Krishna is full of rasa, and in fact, all of these attributes are part of the enchantment of Krishna. So that you will not find, unlike the jiva in this world, there's no possibility that Krishna can be dry of relish, of rasa. There's always immense taste and sweetness in Krishna, in whatever he does. And the second is kama, so intense desire of a material kind. So in the spiritual realm, it may look like kama, but it's prema. It's everything. Any desire there is a manifestation of the highest love for Krishna. So those are the two that Srila Jiva Goswami says are not found in Krishna. But then others are. So for example, we looked at moha, delusion. Another one is tandra, lethargy, or it can mean lethargy or tiredness. So the explanation that Srila Jiva Goswami gives is also from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna after playing with his friends in the forest, they play so many exciting games. So I don't know I think you've all been to India many times, right? So you know that you must have seen massive banyan trees. So banyan trees, they grow like strawberries. They have roots that come from the branches, and those roots fall from the branches into the earth, and the tree continues growing again, just like strawberries, runners. So you can have an entire forest that is composed of a single tree. So in the land of Braja, you have a forest like that. It's not perceptible to our eyes, but someone who attains a high level of devotion, they can see that. And we can remember it because it's described in the writings of the Goswamis, the writings in Srimad Bhagavatam. A forest, a vast forest that's composed of a single tree. And so the coward boys can run along the branches of that without touching the ground. They can go for many miles like that and play in the trees. And they play so many different games where Krishna wrestles with the coward boys. And when Krishna goes into the forest of Vrindavan, he looks so beautiful that all the residents of Braj, all the gopis, they all come out of their homes. They hear, because you can hear Krishna entering the forest from far away, because it's like the sound of a festival. All the boys are playing on their flutes or blowing their bugles. The cows are mooing, and walking is dancing, because they're if you're filled with so much joy, you can't walk. You're skipping, you're dancing. So that's the movement that you see in Goloka Vrindavan. And Krishna is playing on his flute, and that sound is attracting the hearts of everyone. Everyone comes, all the residents of Braja, Krishna's today on his way to the forest, he's coming through my village. And they all come out to have darshan of Krishna. But Krishna is even more beautiful when he comes home, because then his face and body are completely covered in dust, and he looks even more beautiful. So that's from all the play in the dusty forests of Braj. So Krishna becomes very tired, and in the afternoon, the coward boys, they make a bed of leaves, soft buds and leaves, and Krishna lies under the shade of a tree with his head in the lap of one of his friends, and his friends will massage him. So that's the attribute of tiredness or exhaustion. It's a fault in the Jiva, but it's the highest virtue in Krishna. Isn't this just beautiful?
What about growth?
What about what?
Growth, anger.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll come to that. Yeah, good. We'll come to that. Sri Jiva Goswami says there are so many examples of Krishna being angry that I'm not going to give one. So an example that I remember is where Yashoda Maya is feeding her breast milk to Krishna. And this is a Damodar Lila pastime. And then she's making many different sweets for Krishna. And she's thinking with great delight how I'm going to make rasagullas, sandesh, and so on. And she sees the milk boiling over. So she forcibly takes Krishna from her lap and puts him down on the ground. Now, think about this. Putana, I forget how strong she is, how many, 10,000 elephants or something incredibly powerful. I mean, if you ever, you might have seen online, sometimes I saw the power of a tiger, where a tiger had a rope that it was holding onto with its mouth, and there were 4 people holding on one other side, and the tiger was, pulling them, and they couldn't hold on. So imagine not a tiger, but an elephant. An elephant could, pull anything. But imagine, like 10,000 elephants. So, our vehicles, we think we measure the power of vehicles using horsepower. So in India, it's elephant power. So 10,000, or I forget how many, 100,000 elephants, she was that strong. Krishna was just a very tiny infant And Krishna began sucking the poison from her breast and also her life air. And she forcibly tried with all of her strength to push Krishna away. But she couldn't. She couldn't. But Yashoda Maya, one hand, she's able to take Krishna off her lap and put him on the ground. And then she rushes to save the milk, and Krishna becomes angry. And he takes a piece of stone, and there's the pot of yogurt, and he pops it, and yogurt's like, spilling out. So that's an example of Krishna being angry. No. Yeah, examples of anger are also well known. He doesn't say. Hankering, akanksha, is illustrated as follows. So this is also from Damodar Lila. So it's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So why do the Goswamis and why does Srila Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion, why are they continuously quoting the Srimad Bhagavatam? It's very important to know this. Why? Because the Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest scriptural authority in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. Srila Jiva Goswami explains this at the beginning of his Sandarbhas, in Tattva Sandarbha. He explains that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest text. It explains, it's Srila Vyasadev's natural commentary on the Brahma Sutra, superior to all texts, and he provides many arguments for that. So for this reason, most of the writings in our tradition are writings on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Sandarbhas, 6 Sandarbhas, the actual name for them is Bhagavata Sandarbha. It's a treatise on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Srila Jiva Goswami also wrote the Krama Sandarbha, which is his commentary in sequence on the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first text of our tradition, what is it? It's the Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Srila Sanatana Goswami. Bhagavatamrita, the ambrosia of the Bhagavata. Srila Rupa Goswami wrote the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. So these are all texts, either commentaries or other texts that focus on the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami is again and again citing verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So to illustrate how Krishna is hankering, he cites a verse where Krishna, Yashoda Maya is churning butter, and the little Krishna, he's desperate to drink her milk, so he grabs onto her clothes and he's yanking her clothes to express his hankering. Worry, asanka, is illustrated as follows. Kvapya drishtvantarar vipine vatsan palangscha vishvavit sarvam vidi kritam krishnaha sahasa vajagamaha. When Krishna was unable to find the calves and the cowherds anywhere in the forest, then he understood it was the work of Brahma, but initially he was worried, very concerned. And as you know, he then manifests the form of the cowherds, of his friends, and also of the calves, and for one full year. But he was filled with worry. So you see all of these different attributes of Krishna, where what's a flaw for the jiva in this world is part of Krishna's greatest charm or beauty. Krishna is fearful, right? Another example is when Yashoda Maya chases Krishna with a little stick, and Krishna's complete, he's fearful. That's part of the prayer that we sing at the time of, during the Kartik month. He's trembling, Krishna, so she has to put her stick away because she's concerned, because he's trembling. He has tears coming from his eyes, and he has smeared one of his eyes with his palm, so the kajal has smeared on one eye, so there's a dark stream of tears and a light stream of tears, like the Yamuna River and the Ganga River, that glide down onto his stomach and meet at his navel, like the meeting of the Ganga and the Yamuna. How is that possible? Krishna, who is feared by fear personified, is running away from his mother out of fear. Just see how wonderful this is. That's the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. No other text will explain that. No other text will describe in such a captivating way the beauty, that supreme beauty of Krishna. And it's because that was not described that Sri Vyasadeva, he couldn't understand why he felt incomplete. He had already divided the Vedas. He had already written the Brahma Sutra. The Brahma Sutra is a systematization of all of the Upanishads. He had already written, he had already composed various other texts, but he felt like he hadn't achieved anything. He felt that despite all of that effort, there was this deep lack of fulfillment. And then his guru, Narada Rishi, came to him and said, have you described the beauty of Krishna? Have you described these enchanting pastimes of Krishna that captivate the heart of everyone? Have you described the supremacy of devotion, bhakti? And he had not. So he enters into a deep trance, and he, after seeing this, he then composes Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, Srimad Bhagavatam is an eternal text, so he's manifesting Srimad Bhagavatam in this world. Okay, we might look at one other quality, and then okay, well, I should say, very important, Jiva Goswami explains that these qualities, they originate from knowledge. So the various flaws that we have in this world, they're manifestations of avidya or ignorance, or they're manifestations of the gunas, the qualities of this world, sattva, rajas, tamas. But Krishna's qualities all are, they originate from divine knowledge, they originate from knowledge. They arise from prem. And we find that those qualities are also present in Krishna's associates. Krishna's associates also become very anxious, but their anxiety is a manifestation of the excellence of their love for Krishna. They're anxious about serving Krishna. So then Srila Rupa Goswami says, Itam sarvavatarebhyas tatopyatravatarinaha vrajendranandana sushtu madhurya bharairitaha. Thus, so it's explained that in this way it's explained that Krishna's sweetness is far greater than all of the avatars, and also the sources of the avatars, which is Mahavishnu. And the way that Krishna's sweetness is higher is because of these particular attributes that Krishna has. They're very human-like qualities, and they conceal Krishna's majesty. So Krishna is the source of all avatars, the Swayam Bhagavan, the origin and source of all avatars. Just like Srila Jiva Goswami says, just like the moon, right? If you look at the moon on different nights, it'll appear differently. But it's the same moon. So if you look at the different avatars, Narasimha, Varaha, Matsya, or the different forms of Vishnu, Mahavishnu, it's the same personal Lord. They're not different persons. It's the same personal Lord, but they're manifesting, they're visible to different extents. But Krishna is like looking at the full moon. That's the original supreme Lord, original and the source. So it's like looking at the full moon. So another quality, if you remember, is which is considered a flaw for the jiva, is dependence on others. So Krishna is entirely dependent. Imagine, Krishna is the foundation of everything. All the universes emanate from him and come back into him. Right? In a way, the universes are not distinct from Krishna, in the sense that if something comes from a particular source and is always under the control of that source, you can consider them to be, there's unity in that sense. So, for example, if we sweat, right, the bead of sweat comes off our brow, it falls to the ground, that's not part of us. You can't say that's part of you, because you have no control over it. But Krishna, Mahavishnu, the universes come out of his pores, and he always has complete control. He can bring them back in. So imagine the bead of sweat, if it came from your brow and you could suck it back up into your brow, then it would be part of you. We have no ability to do that. Krishna, Mahavishnu, all of the universes come out of him like beads of sweat, and he's able to draw them at will back into him. So he's the supreme controller. Nothing, as Srila Prabhupada famously would say, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Lord. And so entirely independent. Everything is dependent on him. He's entirely independent. But Krishna, his own source, is fully dependent on his devotees. Krishna is unable to live without his devotees. That's why his devotees are sometimes said to be Krishna's own heart. So, very big problem to disrespect a Vaishnava or Vaishnavi, because they're the heart of Krishna. And that's considered to be the attribute of a Kanishta Bhakta. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 47 states that the key attribute of a Kanishta Bhakta, also referred to as a materialistic devotee, is that they will worship the deity with great care, natad bhakteshu cha anyeshu, but they will not have that same attention and care in relation to devotees, and cha anyeshu, others, meaning other jivas. So you don't pay attention to the relationships you have with other devotees or with people in general, jivas, but great, care in the temple room. You're able to maneuver the fan in a very ornate way. That's the definition of a materialistic devotee, a Kanishta Bhakta. So the devotees are the heart of Sri Krishna. That's why it's the first offense to the holy name is to disrespect the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Not to disrespect the Guru. And why? Because most people will not disrespect. Some will, but most will be careful at least not to disrespect the Guru. But very easy to disrespect the Vaishnavas. I remember there's one Vaishnavi who would come to very senior Vaishnavi. She passed away a couple of years ago. Her name is Srimati Umadidi. She would come to visit Costa Rica and stay with us. She was born in the 1930s, so she's very elderly. And she would say, don't ever disrespect even devotees who seem quite new. Never. Because they're very dear to Guru and Krishna. Very, very dear to Guru and Krishna. It's like you have your hand and you have the smallest finger, right? If you take a hammer to your small finger, it'll still cause immense pain. So it's very painful to it's very painful to Guru and Krishna when we disrespect our, so-called little devotees. We might pay attention. We might be careful to devotees who have particular positions. Maybe they're the temple president, or they might be a sannyasi. But be careful with the so-called little devotees. We also don't know who they are. And that may manifest later in this life. It may manifest in the next life. But these are very important personalities in Mahaprabhu's community. Even not just practitioners of bhakti, all jivas are very, very dear to Krishna. So Srila Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna wears a special gem. Do you know the name of the gem? Kaustuba gem. The Kaustuba gem has innumerable fine rays of different colors that spread out in all directions. Each ray is a particular jiva. And the jivas are so dear to Krishna that he wears that gem close to his heart and he never takes it off. All manifestations of Vishnu will have the gem. That's the gem that comprises the limitless number of jivas. So someone who sees in that way, suddenly every jiva is very precious. Every jiva is dear to Krishna and every jiva is situated on Krishna's chest. When we see that in that way, suddenly it's a different vision. We're not seeing in terms of enemy and friend. We're not seeing in terms of our story in this material world or their story. Now we're seeing in relation to Krishna. You know that there are 6 aspects of Sharanagati. So Sharanagati is to take exclusive shelter of Krishna. There are 6 aspects. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishyati vishvaso goptipe varanam tata, atmanikshepa karpani shadvidha, sharanagati. So we can't. Sharanagati is, Srila Prabhupada explains in the Nectar of Instruction, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura explains in his commentary to Upadeshamrita, that Sharanagati, exclusive shelter of Krishna or surrender to Krishna, is the doorway to bhakti. Right? So if you want to come into this temple room, you have to come through the door, right? You'll never come in through the window unless it's opened. Never come in through the wall. You have to locate the door. So Sharanagati is the door to bhakti. Without passing through Sharanagati, there's no question of bhakti. We haven't reached that stage. We're simply outside the temple of bhakti, hoping to gain entrance. So the first 2 aspects of Sharanagati are anukulyasya sankalpa, to accept everything that's favorable for bhakti. And the second is to reject everything that's unfavorable to bhakti. Right? So, but there's another explanation also, because this verse comes from the Lakshmi Tantra. And in the Lakshmi Tantra, it explains it in that way, but it gives some further meanings. Anukulyasya sankalpa means I take the vow. Sankalpa means a vow, right? Anukulyasya sankalpa, I take the vow that I will always do, whatever I do will be favorable to others. So everything that I do is helpful or intended to be of service and benefit to others. Pratikulyasya varjanam. Hare Krishna.
You are aware of the time. Questions?
Okay. Pratikulyasya varjanam. I take the vow that never ever will I do anything that is detrimental to other jivas, to others. So you see here that that someone who has adopted the moods of Sharanagati, all others, they have this mood of kindness, compassion, and friendship to others. You would never, right? Most people, unless we're entirely bewildered, we would never intentionally try to do something that is harmful to ourselves. Generally, we don't. We try to do whatever we do is to further whatever we think are our best interests. Well, someone who has developed the moods of Sharanagati, they will have that approach to others as well. So in other words, Sharanagati means that one has developed the qualities of the highest yogi or yogini. We will see the good fortune of others to be our good fortune. We will see the misfortune of others to be our own misfortune. So we'll stop here. I want to open it up to any questions that anyone may have.
Question could be asked.
Or comments or objections.
The question could be asked, all that list of faults in the Jiva, if we see some these qualities in Krishna, then our faults will be eradicated.
Yeah.
How does it work? Why?
Okay. Very beautiful question. When you speak, can everyone hear it, or do I need to repeat the question?
Huh?
Do I need to repeat the question?
Yes, perhaps, if that has not come.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
please.
the question is that by meditating on the qualities of Krishna, then what are Krishna's virtues, then the faults that we have as a jiva in this material world, that is vanquished. So, but how does that work? It's a very, very interesting question that Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas have they explain. So, there are three different shaktis or powers, main categories of powers. They're known as Antaranga Shakti, the internal power. Tatastha Shakti, which is the marginal or liminal power. And Maya Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti, which is the external power. So the qualities, the faults that the jiva has in this world are manifestations of the Bahiranga Shakti, so the external power of Krishna. They're not actually qualities of the Atma. So one of the 21 true properties of the self is nirmala, purity. So actually the self doesn't have a connection with this material world. So these qualities are manifestations of illusion. They're manifestations of Krishna's Maya Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti. Krishna's attributes are manifestations of his Antaranga Shakti, his internal power. So the Antaranga Shakti, the internal power of Krishna, encompasses Krishna's form, his names, his attributes, which we've been discussing, his activities, his associates, his divine realm. Bhakti also is part of the Antaranga Shakti, internal power. The internal power and the external power are directly opposed to each other. So the external power cannot exist in the presence of Krishna's internal power. It's just like darkness cannot exist in the presence of light. So because of that, when we discuss Krishna's qualities, we meditate on Krishna's qualities, then, especially if we do that under the shelter of our acharyas, under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's teachings, and then that discussion of Krishna's qualities attracts Krishna's internal power. And as a result of that, the external power automatically leaves that place. And so automatically all the manifestations of Maya Shakti, all of the faults and flaws and impediments that are in our heart as a result of our state of bondage, begins to fall to pieces. As Srimad Bhagavatam explains early on, that by speaking about, by discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, the knot in the heart is vanquished. It's what ties us in this world is cut apart, and the devotion that is really the nature of the soul to be attracted to Krishna begins to manifest.
Beautiful explanation. Thank you.
And any other comments or questions? It can be about what we've been discussing or any other topic as well, if you wish.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice to see you and hear your soothing voice.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Prabhuji, I had a question.
Sure.
I have two questions. One is, so when I was talking to a devotee recently, and I was saying to her, I was asking her that when somebody is aggressive towards us, they have done some harm towards us, either verbally or through their actions, then we tend to become very bitter towards them. And so in order to reconcile and not feel bitter, I was trying to explain to myself that no, it is my karma, it is my bad karma, and she is only an agent of my karma, he or she, which is why he or she has behaved like that with me. So this other devotee, who is a very senior devotee, said to me, no, actually it's not like that. It does not always work like that. You must not say that, no, it's your bad karma. It's just not, it does not work like that. It could be just that person who is the bad person, who is behaving that way. So is that the correct answer which I received from her? It didn't solve my dilemma anyway.
Yeah. Well, there are a few thoughts that come to mind in relation to that. One of them is it can be unhelpful. I'm not suggesting in any way that you would adopt this approach, but it's something that someone could do in a spiritual community, or if they have a spiritual practice. Sometimes we go through situations where someone may act with quite some hostility, and may do something unexpected, and may breach trust, or do something that is intended to harm us. So you're absolutely right. I first want to validate that you're absolutely right that mostly the natural result is that there's some bad feeling towards that person. It's a very, very rare soul, someone who has really crossed crossed this world who is not touched by that. Really, it's someone who, it's described in Bhagavad-gita as someone who, despite going through so many difficulties, they continue to see everyone as they are beyond enemy and friend. So, first of all, it's a difficult situation to handle when that happens. But I also want to say that it's not helpful to try to cross that in a way that's not truthful. So, we know what perhaps the ideal response to that is. We have descriptions of great souls who undergo very difficult circumstances and always have a mood of compassion. So we can have that, we can cherish that as an ideal, but it's not possible to artificially pretend that we're at that stage if we're not. So that's perhaps what the devotee you were speaking to, maybe they were trying to get that across. I don't know, but it is always important to be truthful, be honest. If something has hurt us very much, to try and kind of suppress that and pretend it's not there is not going to be very helpful. We may need to speak to that person and express how we feel. If that's not possible, we may need to speak to someone we trust and say, look, this happened and I'm deeply affected by it. I'm not sure how to deal with this. And that is part of the intimacy of friendship. So in Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, there is a verse, the fourth verse, that describes the 6 types of friendship, or 6 types of affection, which, between Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. One of them is Guya Makyati Prichati, so to express our heart and to hear another person as well express their heart. I sometimes feel, and I'm just going to say this quite, I guess I'm in a way revealing my own heart by expressing this, but it's something we're not very good at in our communities. First of all, it's hard to find someone to trust. Very often you say something to someone and then they will say to everyone else, or they'll post it online. We don't have relationships of trust, and that's a big lack. I mean, 2 qualities of friendship or affection are bhukte bhojayate chaiva, to give to give prasad and accept prasad. We're very good at that one, but we're not very good at listening to others. Listening can mean without having any agenda, to just be there for another person and to hear them without judging them, without trying to resolve their problem, but just be there to listen to them express their heart. So in these kind of situations, it's not helpful, in my own experience, to pretend that we have reached an elevated state where we are not affected if we are affected. But what we can do is follow the teachings of Upadeshamrita and reveal our heart to someone who we have a friendship with and we have trust in. Very good to have that with a senior devotee, if there is someone like that, because they can also respond to us in a way that comes from a higher level of consciousness. And that can be, that can kind of raise our awareness and allow us to see something in a way that's different to the way we might be looking at it. Having said that, what you have explained is true also. See, many things have different facets. It's like if you take an emerald and you look at it in the light, it shines differently depending on how you look at it. So it is also true that if we are feeling some pain or suffering as a result of something that has happened, that suffering that we experience is part of our cycle of karma. So Someone who is crossed beyond karma, they won't feel any suffering. Someone may say something publicly about them, something that would, cause shame or embarrassment or hurt. If someone is beyond this world, they won't be affected by it. So the very fact that there's a certain amount of pain that we're experiencing indicates that we're still tied to this world. And that's not to condone what the other person has necessarily to condone what the other person has done. To cause any pain like that, especially if it's inflicted intentionally, we face the consequences for doing something like that. And to do that to another jiva, or especially a Vaishnava, there are serious repercussions for that. For one thing, it destroys our practice, our spiritual practice. So it's a very serious thing to do. So that's not to be condoned. But at the same time, if that is causing distress, the very fact it's causing distress is an indication that we still are rooted in this world. It may not necessarily be karma, because it is also said that someone who utters Krishna's name is liberated. That may not be apparent, but it's true. Just like if you take a rope, and if you burn the rope, it'll still retain its shape. And you can even see the details of the rope that's been burnt, but it's ash. If you flick it, it just, blows away in the wind. So uttering Krishna's name, even namabhas, liberates a person. And what happens then is whatever we go through in our life is somehow in one way or another there to help us forward in our bhakti. So it is legitimate, and it is a good idea to reflect on things that have happened and to consider how that can help us move forward in our bhakti. I'll give you a personal example. I went online a couple of years ago, and I presented on defending the teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura and Srila Prabhupada. And these are teachings about the relationship between the self and bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada is very, very clear on this topic. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura is very clear on this topic. And someone else was arguing forcefully that Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura were teaching apasiddhanta. And they were saying this is against the teachings of Srila Jiva Gosvami. It's simply like a preaching strategy. So we can sideline or ignore those teachings because they're incorrect. So I went online, and in the most respectful way that I could, I spoke up against that. And this particular person, he then wrote a series of articles that basically directed at me. And in those articles, he insinuated many things, that I was doing this as a popularity contest, that I lacked academic integrity, many things like that. And I was very hurt by much of what of what he said. And it, I withdrew from online activity for some time. And I would say this was like, if I had to list certain events in my life that really had an impact and that made me really reflect and go inwards and try to understand how to move forward, this was one of them. It affected me deeply. But I will also now, it's been a few years now, I will say that this was one of the most important learning events in my life. Without going into too many more details, I'm really happy that this happened. I can see that it needed to happen. There were certain deep things, very profound things I needed to go through and learn, and I've come through that by the grace of my Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Varga. I've come out of this it's something that has really been important for my own personal development and practice. So generally what happens is that when there's a challenge in our life, we will look at the challenge and not so often focus on there's a treasure in every challenge. There's a jewel that's hidden in that. And whenever we're affected deeply by something, it's an opportunity to not to condone what happened in any way, but there is an opportunity to look for that jewel, that precious jewel that is in the situation that can help us. So I would say that what you've expressed is there's a profound truth in what you've expressed, and what this other devotee has explained, there's truth in that as well. It's a life situation, it's a circumstance that we find ourselves in life that has different facets. So there are different ways of looking at it, and they don't necessarily cancel out each other. Is that a helpful response?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
You say someone else with a question?
Sure. Any other comments? Objections? Questions?
No question, but as a comment, I think it's natural to feel bad. If we don't feel bad, then we are not developing our consciousness. It's part of self-realization. We have to realize our own consciousness. It's only through mistakes, and when we feel that, it's actually probably a good thing, because it's actually helping us grow into our consciousness. If we don't feel bad in our lives, in anything we do, then we are not really achieving. I think it is natural to actually feel and make mistakes along the way. If we don't make mistakes, we will never learn.
Prabhu has mentioned something in relation to the value of emotions. Emotions of different kinds. Emotions are very important in relation to our path of bhakti. So if you look at the history of Indian thought, and you look at other traditions have always been very suspicious of emotions. So for example, if you look at the yoga tradition of Patanjali, the second sutra defines yoga. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is restraining the mind and the emotions, right? So generally the idea is, emotions are not to be trusted. They certainly can't, they don't help us on our spiritual path. But in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, emotions take on a very important role, and with the idea of developing spiritual emotions. So emotions that are the emotions that we find described in the sacred texts, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, to gradually develop. So Srila Rupa Gosvami in his Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu, he's not trying to diminish emotions, but to amplify emotions, to increase emotions to their highest extent, but in relation to Krishna. So by always focusing on putting Krishna in the center, putting Srila Prabhupada, the Vaishnavis in the center, then whatever emotions we experience, we can purify those emotions, and then hopefully they become aspects, like they emerge from a heart that is filled with love for Krishna and the devotees. We'll stop here.
Can I ask one more question?
Of course.
Is there time?
Is there time?
Yes.
Okay, there's time.
Questions actually. One is, at the end of every canto, not every chapter, the probably the end of every canto or every series of events which Srimad Bhagavatam is describing, there will be a Shruti Phal. So, for example, when you read the story of Ajamil, there will be some Shruti Phal. I cannot remember what the Shruti Phal was, but for example, all your sinful reactions will be, whoever reads this, your etc. etc. So, when you read that, so you've read it a few times, you read it to somebody else. So, and then you think, oh, so now you've read this. So this Shruti Phal is saying you're liberated. You don't have to take birth again. Sinful reactions abolished. But then, in actual fact, it is not. That's not what is happening. Did you get my question, Prabhu?
I do. Yeah. Very good question. So yeah, it's similar also to statements that are made, such as if you bathe in Sri Radha Kund, then if you dip in Sri Radha Kund just one time, then you attain Krishna Prem and Radha Dasyam. You become a servant of Srimati Radhika. So many people have dipped in Radha Kund, but they haven't attained that yet. So it's not so easy to actually dip in Sri Radha Kund, right? So it's not so easy actually to hear the story of Ajamil, because hearing means directly perceiving. So Srila Jiva Goswami explains this. He says that when we speak about knowledge of Krishna, whenever we speak of knowledge of Krishna, it means direct perception or awareness of Krishna. And that awareness of Krishna is non-different from bhakti. So it's not an easy thing. There is no doubt that someone who has truly heard the teachings of Ajamil, they will never come back to this world. And that's the meaning of, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know the famous verse, the famous payar that says, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastre Koi, Lavamatra Sadhu Sange, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Even a moment's association, so like a fraction of a second, all Shastra manifests in the heart. So, but what is Sadhu Sangha? Sadhu Sangha doesn't just mean being physically in front of a sadhu. Right? The mosquitoes are also, they're sitting on the body of a sadhu. But what are they doing? They're simply sucking blood. Right? They're simply taking the energy. But sadhu sangha means to completely follow in all ways. So it's not a cheap thing, sadhu sangha. But if someone is able to do that even for a moment, they're beyond this world. So often the Shruti Phal is stating that. At the same time, the Shruti Phal will also often say that even if one has not attained that, simply starting and listening, with a certain amount of faith. Shruti Phals are phrased in different ways, but someone who takes to bhakti, as is explained in Srila Prabhupada explains, whatever you gain is never lost. So starting that, in a way, it's guaranteed. Unless there's some very serious error in our practice where we offend a Vaishnava, a Vaishnavi, and even then there will be chances to rectify that. But barring such a serious mistake, listening to Srimad Bhagavatam creates such a deep mental impression, what Srila Rupa Goswami describes as a vasana or a samskara, a mental impression like a memory in the heart, or a memory in the mind that we take even to another lifetime. So in another lifetime, even someone may practice bhakti and may do, as you mentioned, read the story of Ajamil, and it creates this mental impression, and they may leave the path of bhakti, so that you might get distracted. They might get distracted. They'll spend the rest of their life doing something else, opening up a business, or decide not to have. They might go through a bad experience, like you mentioned, and think, "Oh, I'm going to give up bhakti," and they will give it up for this life. At some point, whether it's later in this life or in another birth, they'll be passing down someplace, London. They'll hear Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. They'll hear Nagar Sankirtan or some Harinam, and their hearts will be captivated by that. And that moment will reawaken that vasana, that mental impression from a past lifetime, and they'll continue. So they may not be liberated in this, they may not attain perfection in this life, but in a sense, it's guaranteed that at some point they will attain perfection. So those are the two ways of looking at the Shrutipals. One is that it may not happen immediately, but it will happen. And another is that sometimes the Shrutipal is stating something, but it doesn't. It may not mean simply physical contact. It's a contact of the Atma with that. It's a deeper. So a moment's association with a Vaishnava, it may not be simply physical contact, even though that creates a very strong impression as well. But someone who has truly connected with a Vaishnava, that's known as Diksha. So we might get initiation, we might have a fire sacrifice. That's actually simply entrance into the school of the tradition, the school. It's sort of like, the ceremony where you join a university, you begin a university. It's simply the beginning point. The real thing happens when a pure guru and a pure disciple, even a moment's association, and there's the transmission of Krishna's Swarup Shakti, Krishna's internal power from the guru to the disciple. That is when, in a moment, bhakti awakens in the heart. So those are the two ways of looking at the Shrutipal.
Thank you. Prabhuji, one more question.
I just want to say one other thing. I love that you have mentioned the Shrutipal, because there are 6 ways traditionally of understanding a text or a passage from a text. And one of them is to look at the first verse and the last verse, and to compare the first verse and the last verse, or the first part of the passage and the last part of the passage. That's the first method for reading a text. This is from the tradition of Mimamsa. We accept this in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. Another important way is to look at the rewards that are promised. So to look at the Shrutipal. So these verses are not there. The Shrutipal is not an exaggeration. The Shrutipal is not there simply, it's because it's there for a very particular purpose. And it explains a lot about the nature of the text.
Okay, before we have more, Amit, can you see if Vashana needs some help?
Sure.
Because we're coming to the time of bringing prasadam in.
Sure.
Okay, Rashmi.
Prabhuji, another thing, I need some suggestion from you. So, each a group of people, and mostly people who don't know who Krishna is, who don't know who Arjun is, who do this Hatha yoga. I myself go and do yoga. But not bhakti yoga, the Hatha yoga which you do to keep yourself fit. So they have asked me to give a talk on introduction of Bhagavad-gita to this group of people who are learning to become teachers of yoga. Again, this Hatha yoga. So
Right.
I'm planning to give them an introduction to the scene, set the scene of why this Bhagavad Gita was spoken, and then talk about the 5 themes of which Bhagavad Gita is mainly talking about. So in one of the themes is of course Kal. So I could not think of how should I explain to this group who does not know anything, how should I explain this concept of Kal, eternal time. That is one point where I'm getting stuck. And how will it help them to understand? Even my concepts are not very clear about Kal. Yes, we understand what is given in Bhagavad Gita, but Kal, why is it such an important aspect that it is one of the 5 most important themes?
Right. I would suggest, of course, you have to present in a way that feels natural for you and that you're able to do with confidence. But I would suggest that you consider maybe presenting differently. My own experience with the yoga community, so the Hatha yoga community, is that they will respond. They are not so interested in kind of philosophy in its own right, but they are become very interested in a topic where it relates to their everyday life. So maybe, depends on how you present, but maybe if you speak about the 5 main kind of overarching topics in the Gita like that, depending on how long or short your talk is, you may possibly lose some of your listeners, some of your audience. But if you speak in terms of some of the yoga teachings that they can use directly in their everyday life, you'll capture their attention. And then that becomes a very good kind of bridge for also explaining bhakti yoga. So as an example, there are 18 systems of yoga in the Bhagavad-gita. The very first system is, so each chapter is a different yoga system. The first chapter is Vishad yoga. So it's the yoga of crisis. So they're teachings on how to overcome difficulty, just as Arjuna overcomes difficulty in his own kind of dark night of the soul, or his own crisis that he has on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But then the next one, there's karma yoga, or the yoga of action. And I have personally found that that's the yoga teachers and yoga practitioners in Hatha yoga community, they're very much drawn to that, because here you have a system that allows you to make the work that you do every day in your life, you can do that as a form of worship. So most people, they hate the work they do. So very few people like what they do. Majority of people, their favorite day is Friday. Their worst day is Monday morning. But at the same time, most of us, we spend a large part, perhaps most of our life, working in some way. And so if we set ourselves up, if we don't like what we're doing, we don't find any kind of fulfillment in what we're doing, we set ourselves up to be unhappy or unfulfilled for the majority of our life. So Krishna gives 3 main teachings relating to the work that we do. The first one is to be true to our nature. The second is to let go of the results. And the third is to make it an offering. So if you unpack that, just as an example, I found that Hatha yogis, Hatha yoginis, they become very interested, and it's something that they're able to apply immediately in their life. So I guess what I mean to say is, depending on how you present or how you want to present, it maybe you might find it's very helpful to think what they are looking for. So what is it that they're undergoing? What difficulties are they experiencing in their everyday life? what tools do they need to be more effective, and how can you attract them gradually to be interested in the tradition of bhakti. I think if you make it a little bit too philosophical, or you speak about concepts that are still perhaps a little bit vague in your own mind, you may not capture their attention as well, so as well as you could. This might be a longer discussion, but I would be very happy to discuss further with you if at any point if you want. And
it's on Thursday. I will give the 1 hour talk on Thursday, so please give me time.
I'm really excited that you are presenting to the yoga community. I think you're going to do a magnificent job, and I think they're very lucky to have you come and present. I hope it goes really well.
So when can I talk to you, Prabhuji, about this?
When is your talk?
Thursday.
Ooh, okay. I return to Oxford shortly, but so we're in the same time zone. We'll be in the same time zone because I'm not returning to Costa Rica for another 2 weeks. But perhaps we can get on a call on maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, and we can speak about it further.
Would Wednesday be okay?
Wednesday is good, yeah.
Yeah?
Wednesday's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Rashmi Mataji. I would like Narada Prabhu, you want to say something? You have been so quiet.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Narada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Narada. Prabhu.
I don't have any questions. I've just been sitting quietly listening. Thank you for your enlightening talk. We actually met a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember.
Was that in Bath?
Yes.
Yes. I
At
remember.
a tutor priya at Madhu's house, and it's in the Hare Krishna community. It's a bit of a small world, isn't it? Because I didn't realize that I knew your father, and I didn't know that, I didn't know the connection. But so yes, it's a small world. And sorry, I can't be with you in person there this evening in Leicester.
Where do you live, Narada Prabhu?
I'm in Bath. So it's about 3 hours away, I think, from Leicester. As lovely as Leicester is. So I'm really sorry I can't be with you in person, but thank you for your talk. And I certainly kind of resonated with some of the things that you said about kind of I think the thing that really stuck with me was how we should show respect for all living entities. You started to talk about showing respect for all devotees. And then I was thinking straight away, but actually it should be all human beings. We should be respectful of all human beings and all living entities, because Krishna exists in the hearts of all. And I was pleased that you then went on to say that, because I was taught as a child, kind of outside of the Krishna conscious community, I was taught as a child just to be nice to all people and respect and treat all people with respect. And so I do get frustrated when we don't always feel or experience that in the Krishna consciousness community. And I guess forgive the terminology, but I just think we need to get better at being human beings and being nice to each other. And because we're so busy with our seva and maybe our japa and our reading, that we don't have time or don't commit the time to building those real relationships or friendships, being friends with devotees. And yeah.
You've put it so well, Narada Prabhu. You've put it so well. And sometimes as part of like what we think of, we conceive of as our service, we might be working on a particular project that has objectives. We will put those objectives before, we'll privilege them over our relationships, and that's a mistake. So we're trying to, I don't know, whether it's, opening a temple or, I don't know, selling books or whatever it is, sometimes
we will try to hit a target, and that will take more importance than truly caring for the people around us, and that's a mistake. So I love the way you've expressed that. It's not possible to find a realized Vaishnava or Vaishnavi that doesn't have deep kindness to all jivas. It's not possible.
Jai, I think we have to stop here. Prasadam is here.
I want to
Machai Sai, go take the camera and point it at the prasadam. Just to see what.
I just want to finish with the pranam.
Yes, one moment.
Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Gurudev, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.